Hello everyone. I am Terlisa Gardley-Brown, the host of Real Talk with Terlisa, the queen of Real Talk. And today is Monday. You guys know it is Mental Health Monday. So tonight we're going to be talking about rejection. So if you haven't done so, grab a friend, share on your page, and get ready to have some grown folks conversation as we talk about rejection, what it feels like, how to deal with it. I mean, we're going to talk about this thing in the raw, no notes. Hey, Mr. Cynthia, no notes, no nothing. We just going to have a grown folks conversation about that. Are you still catering? Let me know if you're still catering, because I'm working on something for the month of October and I might need you. Hopefully you are. So again, my name is Terlisa Gardley-Brown. I am the host of Real Talk with Terlisa, the queen of Real Talk. And I want to give everyone a few minutes to join into the live if we talk about something that, as we say, most people don't talk about. I hope your Monday was good. Guys, I got to be honest with you. I am tired. I had such a blast yesterday at my cousin's wedding, and then came in, and you know, when you feel so much energy, you have so much fun, it's like a little kid, and you can't go like straight to sleep. So I couldn't go straight to sleep, and I had to work, so sister is tired. But needless to say, we have to do this segment on mental health, so I want to give everyone an opportunity to come on in live, and then if not, we're going to get started, and everybody can catch the replay of it. So I believe in starting on time. That's one of my pet peeves. Is starting on time, and I'm learning to kind of work through that right now, but you know how that goes. So long story short, rejection. We deal with rejection, and we're going to start out just being very honest. Rejection hurt. If you are experiencing, I would say the first thing we'll talk about is like rejection at work. So let's just say, for instance, you are at work and you are training everyone on this position, and then you find out it becomes available again because it didn't work out, and you apply for it, and then they tell you, nope, you can't have it. That's a rejection, like a slap in your face, because here it is. You have the skill set, you know what it is or what it takes to do this job, but they tell you no, and then hire somebody and want you to train them on that position. That's a rejection. Think about somebody also that may have worked 25 years for a company, and now they starting to downsize, and you know they're going to keep the young people in. So you've been there so many times, you have your 401k and all of that, but at the end of the day, you just want to work. So here it is, because you are the oldest person that is in the group, they're not going to tell you that. You face with rejection because now they're talking about laying you off. So this whole thing with rejection is just not about relationship, and it's not just about family. Let's talk about rejection. You know, many of us in our older life right now getting our credit together because we're looking at purchasing different things. It could be a car, it could be a home, it could be a boat, it could be anything, but you're working on becoming a better person so that when you go out here, you can purchase what you want. And then you get there with your down payment if it's needed. Your credit score has went up 100 points, and they tell you no, and you like, what the heck you mean? No, out of all of these bills I just paid off and I'm getting myself together, and you telling me no? That's a rejection that really slaps you in the face, and it hurts your pride, because not only did you know, if you had the rejection over the phone, you like, yeah, I'm good, it's all good, but somebody to tell you no in your face, that's a whole nother level of like embarrassment and shame that we go through dealing with that. The other area of rejection I want to talk about is rejection with your significant other. You've been with somebody through the storm and the rain, the ups and downs of life, and then they turn around and they say, you know what? I don't want to be with you anymore. Or they turn around and say, you know what? I don't want this relationship anymore. And now you faced with trying to understand, what did you do? Is it something that you did? Or is it that you guys have truly grown apart? Is it a factor where you're trying to understand, you know, let's be honest, when it comes to business rejection, it is a little bit different than when it's a personal rejection. So when it's a personal rejection, you know, you kind of, it ticks at your self-esteem. It kind of hurts at your confidence. You looking at yourself kind of sideways like, man, what did I do to deserve this? Was I really all of that bad? How many of us have been rejected by somebody that you love, and then you like standing there like, I thought I was at the top of my game. I'm thinking that everything was good, and now you hitting me with the curveball. So that is a rejection that hurts like you know what, because especially you didn't giving your all to somebody and they turn around and say they don't want you, or you're not good enough, or we're grown apart, or whatever other things they may tell you. But what about rejection when it comes to your family? What happens when the rejection comes from the person that you grew up with? Guys, excuse me for one moment. My doorbell ringing. Hold on one second. And this is real loud. Hold on, y'all. I know y'all like, did she really just leave to go answer the door? I sure did. I was waiting on Pastor Lisa. So, I'm sorry, but this is live. So, you faced with the rejection from your family. So, here it is, your family members. How do you accept rejection from the people that supposed to take care of you? The person that is supposed to support you, the people that are supposed to encourage you and to help your life get better. So here it is, we are young and the support system is very shaky. The support system is very rocky. And as children, we need that level of support. We need that level of encouragement. We need the guidance. We need someone to tell us that everything is going to be okay, even if it's not. I'm finding that the root of a lot of our rejection comes from our childhood. It comes from the broken pieces of what we've seen. It comes from the broken pieces of what we have experienced in our own right. You wouldn't believe how many young ladies I have talked to who did not have a relationship with the mother. Like a father, you know, we always say mama's baby, daddy's maybe. Moms are always there no matter what. But there are so many young ladies that I'm finding who did not have a solid relationship with their mom. They didn't have that solid concrete where that bonding or that guidance should have took place. Can you imagine being rejected by the person that you expect the most love from? Can you imagine the person that is going to validate you, show you how to comb your hair, your personal hygiene and different things, tell you that they don't want you or that you're a mistake? So a lot of what we're going through in our adult life, it stems from the lack of something in our childhood. So here it is now, we're growing up with an ideal or a concept of insufficiency. And as we do our best to deal with that concept of insufficiency, we don't really love the way that we should. We don't really build relationships the way that we should, because we're still dealing with the rejection from the person that we expected to love us. And see, what we have to understand is that rejection hurts. Not only does rejection hurt, but it's a bittersweet pill to swallow. So now, as we're children and you're going into your teenage years, I remember having a conversation with some of my cousins, my female cousins, and we were talking about the way we were raised. Like, there was no doubt that our mothers loved us like that. They didn't play no games about the love, but they didn't say, I love you. I remember growing up and I was real prissy as a girl, which was part of her fault. But she would always say things to me like, you always in the mirror, you need to do this now. I'm prissy, but I go outside and play softball, shoot marbles, and mess with mud pies in a minute. But I'm just saying that we're still trying to heal from a lot of the brokenness that we have experienced. So when we think about rejection, we always think necessarily a rejection from a person that we're in a relationship with. And that really hurts if you didn't gave love to somebody and they like, you know what, I don't want you no more. You know, this thing isn't working. I done found somebody else. And you like, what the heck of hula do you mean you done found somebody else? What the heck of hula do you mean? And can we just talk tonight? No format, guys. guys. We just talking about Mental Health Monday. When you are in love with somebody, or you have been, and when I say been with somebody, I'm talking about been with somebody through the test of time. See, it's easy to be with somebody when they working, when all the things are going wonderfully well. It's easy being with someone. Hey, Miss Tammy. Hey, Mr. John. It's easy being with someone when all is gravy. But the minute things go on a downward slide and you have this person's back, I mean, they lose their job, you're supporting them financially. They get sick, you have to bathe them, you have to cook for them. You have to do everything in a role that you may not even have a title for. So you living with somebody that may not even be your significant other, but you operating in that role. And then this person that you've had their back turns around and tell you that they don't want you no more. It takes all but Jesus to keep you from doing something that you may later regret. So when you start thinking about that type of rejection, and now they've moved on with their life, with their new bae or boo thing, and you still stuck with the residue of what they did to you, it's almost where you go into the next with your guards halfway up because you don't want to get hurt again and you don't know what to trust. So rejection is not just about the disappointment. It's not just about the hurt and the feelings, but it's also the things that are connected to the rejection. The rejection breeds depression. The rejection breeds bitterness. It breeds all types of things. So when you start talking about the anger and the frustration, the minute you hear the word no, or somebody makes a promise to you and they can't make good on their promise, it takes on a whole new world versus somebody be like, just pass it on. So as we talk about rejection, and we kind of started out talking about the rejection at your job, and how you have worked for so many years and now your job is downsizing and they tell you no. I was mentioning with the rejection at your job, even how you may be qualified for a particular position and then they tell you that you can't do it. Amen. You breaking this all, yes, but it is the reality of it. See, we say, well, we're real quick to say, I don't value nobody's opinion. I don't need the opinions of others. You know, that people can't make me, they can't break me. That is true. However, that you have to build to that point in life that it's not, especially if you come from broken pieces and broken fragments, because a person that has been rejected 9 times out of 10 is also dealing with a spirit of brokenness. So how can we, as Al Green say, how do you mend a broken heart? And the heart is not broken, meaning in the physical, it's broken in the spiritual aspect. So as we talk about the insufficiency and the breaking down of your spirit, and we know that when your spirit is broken, when your spirit is hurting, when you are crying out for help and nobody can see your tears, it takes on different aspects in our life. And I don't care what nobody say, you start looking in the mirror, and as pretty as you are or as handsome as you are, you look like, I just don't have it no more. And you could be the best looking person ever. You go through the questioning your own decisions, like the decisions you used to make. You can no longer make those decisions because you have been so rejected. So now, instead of you living your life in order to get better, you live your life in so much caution because you scared that whatever you do, somebody gonna tell you no, or it's not good enough, or you won't succeed, or you won't be able to do what it is you want to do. So how do we deal with the rejection in a nutshell? How is it that something that could be so massive? And rejection is too, when you are the black sheep of your family, that's a whole nother aspect. When you're the person that get talked about, you're the person that gets singled out, you're the person that whose name get thrown through the mud. It's amazing that even a lot of the black sheep of the family that have dealt with rejection are people that have been through circumstances in life, but they get talked about the most. And that I never could understand that if a person is considered the black sheep of the family, these are the people that usually bear the most hurt. So if they're bearing the most hurt, why is it that we do more and add more rejection onto them? Why is it that we do more against them instead of trying to help them and try to pull them out? Now, when you talk about the black sheep of your family and you talk about being a black sheep in society, it's different, because with your family, you expect support. Your family, you expect the love. Your family, you expect the encouragement. You expect the camaraderie. You expect the unity to come from that. But when you are the person that don't get invited to the barbecues, you're the person that don't get invited to any other family functions, and everybody always say, well, I thought you had to work. Well, I thought this. It's amazing that even within your family circle, how people will make excuses for you why you can't attend. Well, I thought you had to work. You didn't ask me. Or how they'll always ask everyone else how you're doing instead of picking up the phone and calling you. So then when you have this attitude towards them because of the behavior that they've displayed towards you, they can't understand it. See, rejection is one of those things. If you've never lived through rejection, if you've never lived through being the black sheep of your family, if you've never lived through a certain obstacle in your life that caused you so much embarrassment and shame, you really don't understand the concept of rejection. If you've never had someone to abandon you, to leave you, and for no apparent reason that made sense to your mind, rejection is not something that you're going to be able to wrap your arms around. So you end up finding that a lot of people, when you start talking about rejection, they be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to grow up. You don't know this. You don't know that. But we don't know what a lot of people have been through in their lives that have made them the way that they are. So here it is. We find it easy to judge. We find it easy to ridicule and to put people in certain boxes versus trying to understand. But what bothers them too, on the flip side, is you have a lot of people that are dealing with rejection. They will reject others, and that becomes almost like a hurt people cycle without them even knowing it. So what ends up is, because they have been rejected and they have not really embraced or understand what love is, then they end up doing the same thing to another person, but they can't see it. Or they end up going through a comparison or a compete. Or if a person is different or they look different, they operate different, they automatically reject that. And I was, born and raised on the West Side, and I was saying how, well, my mom, she was always one of those. And she said, just because you were raised in a certain area doesn't mean you have to be like that. So be free, be different, be creative, be who you are. So when you are creative, you don't run with the crowd. You do not do what everybody else do. You are a natural born leader. Believe it or not, natural born leaders are those that get rejected. When you don't do what everybody else do, you're going to be singled out and talked about. You could be the best person. You can have the sweetest personality. You could be a go-getter. You could be a lot of things in life. But because you are cut from a different cloth, just because you operate or you talk a little different, people will automatically reject you, or they'll say that you think that you're better than them. And that's not even the case. It's just that you look at things from a different set of glasses. So as we talk about this rejection, and we talk about the bitterness and the anger and the rage and the frustration, and then we talk about how it breaks your spirit, what do we do to get better? What happens when the brokenness started in your childhood, when maybe your mom or your father or someone near to you told you that you'll never be anything in life? Can you imagine being a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and having someone like a grandmother or a grandfather, your mother or your father, saying that you will never be anything in life? So every time you get ready to make a critical decision, every time you get ready to do something, you hear this ring in the back of your mind that you'll never be anything. And here it is. You have all of this potential. You have all of these ideas. You have all of these means to move forward. But because those words are still ringing in your head, you end up being at a standstill. How do we deal with rejection when it's, like I say, somebody that you love? How do you deal with rejection when it comes from yourself, when you feel that you're not even good enough? And you'll be amazed at how many adults are walking around us that deal with low confidence, that deal with lack of self-esteem, that deal with the idea of not being accepted, who have been rejected all of their lives for whatever reason. And here it is, they're trying to get it together in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s. So this ideal of rejection is not something that's new. It's just an ideal of how do we approach it so that we can get better. How is it that we cannot hear the negative words that may have been spoken over our lives as a kid? How is it that even as a kid, because I didn't do what the other kids or you didn't do what the other kids in the neighborhood did, that it doesn't make you different? And it's nothing like being labeled outcast or you being picked on because you are different. I didn't read nowhere in the Bible, and I'm thinking about people that are great leaders. Great leaders suffered rejection. And do you know, as a result of them suffering rejection, that a lot of them also suffered from depression? So if you are dealing and you find that they go hand in hand, because we were never created to be an island unto ourselves. We were created to have friends. We were created to love. We were created to be around people. But when you are rejected for so long, you isolate yourself. You become an island unto yourself, and then you just start going through different things like depression. You start going through anxiety. You start going through stress, because in your mind, even though you might meet people that may be nice to you, you may still feel that they're going to reject you like everyone else has rejected you. Let's talk about even love. How many of us have been in relationships or currently in relationship with someone who has decided that they no longer want to be with you? And here it is, or you're in a hot and cold relationship. I've been there, where 1 minute everything is wonderful and you like, yes, we back on track. And then 2 days later, they come in the house with their habits on them and they treat you like you did something to them. So now you're battling with the highs and the lows and the back and the forth, because this is the person that you really want to love and the person you want to be with, but you don't know where your heart is. It's nothing like being in a relationship and you don't know where you stand. And people are like, well, what do you mean? Well, you should know. But when you're with someone for a period of time and things begin to change, there's a little bit of nervousness that we don't talk about that comes to our heart and our mind. You start feeling a shift in your relationship. You start noticing things begin to change and they're just not quite lining up the way that you do. And even though no one has said anything about it, in your spirit you feel rejected, because there's a part of a connection that no longer exists. So even though nothing has been verbally communicated about going separate ways, you feel the separation in your belly. You feel the separation in your spirit. So the things that you used to enjoy with that particular person, that person don't even want parts of. The things that you guys used to love to do collectively, they now want to do their own thing. So how do we deal with the rejection of the heart, the rejection of family, and even rejecting yourself and feeling that you're not good enough? The way that I found that has worked for me and a lot of other people that I have talked to, and I refer to it as being the 3 A's. And the 3 A's is acknowledge, accept, and aspire. So when we think about rejection, what do you mean acknowledge? I don't know. I always say that there's a time in my life if it looked like a problem, if it looked like it was going to cause me some pain, if it looked like that it was going to not work out for my benefit, I would put on track shoes and I would run. So I'm not going to stay in something that I feel is going to hurt me. And that's because of rejection, not even realizing it. I'm not going to stay in something that makes me feel uncomfortable or something that I don't have control over. So in most of the adult life, we find that some of the things that we want to control is a filter because of rejection. Because if I could control it, I know what I'm going to expect from it. If I could control it, then I know exactly what the end result is going to be. But sometimes when we are in positions in life where we have been rejected, we don't even understand that control is on the other side of that. So if I control it, I don't have to worry about being rejected, and I don't have to worry about whatever I'm going through hurting me. If I know that I can control the relationship, the job, the finances, the children, and different things in my life, if I can control it, I don't have to worry about rejection that's going to hurt. So even though we may acknowledge it or we may not acknowledge it, it is still rejection, and we have to understand it. One of the hardest things to do is to acknowledge something that is going to cause you pain. One of the most challenging things to do in life is to understand that I have to look at this for what it is. But when I look at it for what it is, what do I do to become better in this? And that is very difficult. Can you imagine the loss of a loved one? Or can you imagine the loss of something that was near and dear to you? And you find out that, you just block it out of your mind as a way to not deal. I'm just going to block it out of my mind. I'm not going to answer the phone calls. I'm not going to deal with the people. I'm just going to shut the door on reality. If I see them, I'm just going to go the other way. So that is how we are coping with it. So sometimes we find the lack of acknowledging is a coping mechanism. And all it does is it defers it. So if we continue to push off the inevitable and then we're ignoring it, thinking that if I ignore it, I don't acknowledge it, I don't pay attention to it, that it is going to go away, it may not ever go away. And then it becomes a thorn in your side. Most of us, as we get older, we're not confrontational. Like, we feel like it's a waste of time. But even in that, there are times when we have to acknowledge things for what they are, even though what we are acknowledging may hurt. Even though what we may have to acknowledge and stand and look face to face may cause us a little bit of pain. Because you can only run from certain things for so long before whatever you are running from chase you down and break you down. So when we don't acknowledge the rejection, if we don't acknowledge the pain, if we continue to turn a blind eye to the actions that are around us, we put ourselves in a position to only be burned later. So what you don't do today is going to haunt you tomorrow. So when you talk about how do we acknowledge it, first is, how can I deal with this in a way that is going to cause me less pain? And I'll give you an example. With me, I'm the type of person, friend and family member, I used to be, if you burn me, I'm done. I'm closing the door, because especially if I know I was good to you, or especially I know that I was nice to you, and then you turn around and you betray me, or you do something to me that's bad, I will cut you off. I would not want to talk to you anymore. I'm done. You can see me later. You can kiss my ankles. You can meet the bottom of my track shoes. Wherever you get in, that's where you fit in. But I never wanted to acknowledge. People be like, well, if they did something to you, go talk to them about it. No, because in my mind, I'm like, they know what they did. They bogus. They foul. They wrong. Why do I have to go to them and talk to them about it? Not realizing, because I did not want to talk to them about what the experience was, I was really running from it, believe it or not. So as I started getting older and a little bit better in the experiences and acknowledging it, I had to wait until things kind of settled down for me and our emotions. Do we find that sometimes, guys, that's out there, that we don't acknowledge rejection because of the emotional pain that it may cause? Do we find that we don't really talk to the people that have rejected us because they've already done enough damage? So because we're thinking, because we don't talk to them and ignoring them, that it's going to go away, and it doesn't, it becomes a sore that festers and eventually becomes a big problem. So once we get through the, okay, you know what? Sometimes you got to talk yourself up. I hear you, Tammy. Definitely. We got to talk to ourselves like, okay, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make this phone call. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to have this conversation. I'm going to go ahead and let's say what I have to say. When we acknowledge it, we have to understand that the person that, even if you decide to say something to them, they may not accept it. Sometimes the people that hurt us the most, that have rejected us and caused us the most pain, they don't even realize what they have done to us until it is done to them. It's an unfortunate state because we live in such a selfish world right now that people are not really, they're not really knowledgeable or aware of what they do until whatever they do is done to them. So it's okay for somebody to acknowledge you, to be rude to you, to reject you, to cause you pain, to cause you hurt, to get on your nerves, to purposely do things to you until those very same acts are then done to them. So here it is now. We're like, finally, I'm at a point that I'm going to get this off my chest and I'm going to say something. And the person that rejected you or that caused you the pain, they looking at you like you crazy. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then we really still feel foolish. Then like, what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. Well, you don't, no, I don't remember doing that. I don't know. You feel like the biggest butthole, or the person that rejected you and you go talk to them. Have you ever talked to somebody and every time you talk to them and they know they foul, they always putting a spin on it? They always want you to make you feel like you the bad guy. They always want to make you feel like you did something to make them do that, or you said something to provoke them, or you said something to do something to incite that. So when we're dealing with rejection, you have to kind of use discernment too, depending on the person, because there are professional manipulators out here. They are people that prey on those that they think they take the kindness for their weakness. So when you acknowledge it, sometimes it may not even be an acknowledgement that you need to go to them and say, you know what, you rejected me, you hurt me, you pissed me off, you made me mad. Sometimes the acknowledgement is just for you in your own right to say, you know what? They hurt me. They rejected me. Okay, I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm not going to say nothing for them, but I have to move on. And when we make the decision that I'm going to acknowledge the rejection, I'm going to acknowledge the hurt, I'm going to acknowledge the pain, I'm going to acknowledge whatever the feelings and the emotions are, we're able to accept it. And when we're able to accept it, that's when the grounds can break and the healing can begin. We can't heal from anything that we're not willing to reveal or we're not willing to talk about. It's just like a seed. If the seed stays underground and it doesn't get the nurturing, if it doesn't get the exposure to the sun, if it doesn't see certain things and elements to grow, it remains under. So until we can acknowledge the rejection and until we can say, you know what, I accepted whether it was my fault. I accepted, and I remember, like I used to say, being an outcast or being a person that was different, I had to accept it's okay to be different. We have to accept it's okay for me to live the life that may not be pleasing to others. It's okay that I want to do things that have never been done before. It's okay if my mother or my father did not really nurture me and do the things that they needed to do as a parent. We have to accept their lack of knowledge and we have to accept whatever it is they did. But just because you accepting it does not mean that you have to embrace it. That means that I'm accepting it for what it is so that the healing process can begin in my life so that I can move forward. When we talk about rejection and we talk about it being linked to depression and we talk about it being linked to stress attacks and just headaches and different things, we don't understand the moment you acknowledge it and you accept it and you begin to experience the release, and when you start seeing things from a different perspective. I didn't understand a lot of the people that I was rejected was the factor of, man, it's different, but I don't want to say nothing to her because I didn't talk about her. Or I don't want to say anything to them because if I talk to them about it, then, you know, a lot of people don't want to ask you stuff because they may seem like, and it may not even have anything to do with you, it's the fact that they don't want to seem or look like they stupid for asking. A lot of people may never apologize to us for the hurt and the pain that they have caused us knowingly because of a pride issue. So everyone has their own segments and things that they got to deal with when it comes from rejection. We just can't allow the rejection that others have towards us to stop us from moving and to stop us from growing. So here it is now. We've been outcast. We've been talked about. You've been a black sheep of your family. People then came against you. You've been standing on your own. You've been moving and grooving. You've been doing a lot of things in your life, not even realizing on the flip side, the rejection was your protection. Have you ever been in a jam in your life where somebody might have told you no? And because that person told you no, you ended up figuring, hey, Brother Nathaniel, that rejection saved your life. I can a couple times. I can remember being told no. I can remember being said you weren't good enough. I can remember somebody saying you'll never amount to anything. I can remember those very words spoken over my life, and those things, they hurt me and they broke me down. But even in that rejection was a blessing, because that rejection protected me from things that was further down the line. So when we hear the word no, we hear the word not yet, we hear the word it's not your time, we hear the word you'll never amount to anything, we hear these different words, we don't realize that it could be God that is in the midst of this, saving us from something else that's later down the line. I remember something, applying to a position, and I knew I was qualified for this job some years ago, and I did not get the job. And I mean, I ranted and raved. I was mad. I was ready to just like, I can't believe this. But that rejection was a blessing, because a year later the company closed. So when we hear the rejection, even though it hurt and we may question the whys behind it, it does not mean that it cannot happen. It means that maybe it's not meant for it to happen right now. If we're dealing with the rejection from those that are around us, and you trying to understand, what did I do to deserve this? It may not mean the rejection towards you. The people around us could be fighting their own internal battles. They can be fighting their own demons. They could be fighting their own past. And it's just that those that are around them, that's showing them time, attention, and love, are catching the end of whatever is going on, because they don't know how to deal with whatever they're dealing with. So we have to, I know for me, I had to stop second guessing whatever it is I was getting ready to do and start to operate. I remember being in a relationship, and everything, of course, always starts out great. And then things started going in the other direction. And where I was strong and I was confident and I was quick on my feet, I found, because of the rejection and the brokenness that started to fester in that, number one, I didn't want to acknowledge it, because I thought if I didn't acknowledge the rejection, it would go away. I thought that if I just turned to, I'm not going to pay attention to it, it's going to get better. There's some things that is not going to fix itself until we acknowledge it, until we accept it. There are some things that are not going to be able to mend themselves back together until we acknowledge it. And then once I began to acknowledge, you know what, this ain't going to work. And I accepted it, then I was able to see a lot of things. If we're holding on to rejection based on what somebody else did, I'm praying that today we release it. And not only do we release it, but we pray for them as well. Only because if we don't, it begins to stunt our own growth. If we're holding a grudge based on what somebody did to us, we are punishing ourselves, because it's one of those things I had to understand. I don't want to put myself in a position that I miss out on what I have coming to me, because I'm holding a grudge against somebody that did not accept me. Your life, our life is not validated based on another person's, they're saying that they accept us or reject us. Our life is going to be like water. It's going to flow whether they say yes or no. It's going to flow whether they love us or not. It's going to flow whether they say we cool or not. So when I started to understand that the rejection from family members, rejection from those that are around me is not going to hinder my development, I stopped giving what they were giving to me power. I stopped holding on to the things that they said. And when I tell you, it's about us taking our power back. It is truly about us taking our power back. There are so many of us whose childhoods that was less than perfect. We find ourselves, the minute we are in a rut, the rut just don't hit us. it takes us down back to a place that we don't want to be. So when we find that we're down in a place that we don't want to be, we have to fight extra harder. Don't nobody deserve that much part of us to bring us so low that we got to fight to get back high. When God created us and he said he created us in his image and in his likeness and he gave us dominion, he did exactly that. He didn't say that he gave us dominion based on somebody liking us. He didn't say he gave us dominion based on somebody accepting us. He said, I gave you dominion. I created you in my image and in my likeness. So if he did that, knowing that we are created in his image and we're created in his likeness, whether people accept us or not, that's on them. We can't allow what they feel about us to hinder us from our growth. And even if that means that whatever you're doing, you have to start applying the discernment and you got to start applying the wisdom. But don't allow what somebody else felt about you as a child, where you are in your adulthood, even what you may even be experiencing now, to stop you from moving into your next place. So as we talk about the rejection and we say acknowledge and we talk about accept, the next A is called aspire. How can you aspire when you look at life and you feel like you are a failure? How can you aspire when everything around you is going crazy or you've had so much and now you've hit rock bottom? It's nothing like when you are at the pillar of your success and then something happens and then you fall. And then every person that accepted you in your successful moment are now rejecting you because you have nothing to give. How many of us have experienced the same people that we have helped are the same people that will now hurt us? So when we talk about rejection, it's not just as a child or an adulthood. Rejection is something that we're going to go through all of our life because we were not created for everybody to like us. If I look back over great people, I look back over people in the Bible and even people that I know in general, every person that was very successful, every person that were trendsetters, innovators, and every person that did something great in life, they were not accepted initially. They were looked at crazy when they started talking about their witty inventions and creative ideas. Oftentimes people told them that it's not going to work. You'll never be able to receive funding. You'll never be able to do that. We'll go further. You'll never be able to love again. I was the best thing that ever happened to you. I'll go further, a good big again. You know, your heart is broken. You don't know which way to go. I'll go a little bit deeper than that. So even though as a person and you know that you are chosen and you know this is where you are supposed to be in life, don't take whatever a person says to you to heart. I had a person tell me that I would never be anything without them, that I would never be, matter of fact, don't nobody like you, that's why you ain't got no friends and all of this other stuff. This person told me that and I found it funny in the beginning, but when somebody that you care for tell you some stuff like that, we take it to heart. Don't allow the negativity of others influence you. And that is one of the most challenging things to do, is to really block out the negativity. Nobody has power over your life but you and the God. And when we really operate and know that, we don't care about what goes on around us because we know God is ultimately in control. And God has a way of blessing you so far and above those that rejected you. I'm going to say this really quick. We are in a season that God is preparing a place at a table in the presence of our enemies. Right in the midst of every person that has rejected you, come against you, that have talked about you, God is preparing a table right before them. And when he said the cup is running over, the cup of overflow is about to come over in our life. But if we're still holding on to some of that hard-heartedness, if we still holding on to some of that bitterness, that rage, that anger, the cup is there. But if the cup is overflowing and I'm focusing on something else, I'm not going to be able to see it. So when we talk about aspire is I'm going to make a commitment to myself to live outside of what I have been through. I am going to make a commitment that things are getting better and they are getting better right now. Now, even though you're not going to feel that emotional, it's not going to be one of those, you're going to wake up. It's not going to be that immediate. It's going to have to start with a conscious decision that even though I was rejected, even though I was the black sheep of my family, even though I've been talked about, even though those around me may not like me, I still have to live for me. And I have to trust that God is going to do what needs to be done in my life. And when we start to embrace God's plan above everybody else's condition, words, or whatever it is they've said about us, we will start experiencing healing. The other is, be around people. Surround yourself with people, if you can, with people that love you. Surround yourself with people that care about you, that have your best interests in mind. That's one thing, and that's something, again, I used to put myself in isolation, like I was an island unto myself. I could do me very well, but I'm finding that it's nothing like being around people that love you, being around people that support you, being around, and you may not even have to tell them an ounce of your business, but when you're around genuine people that love you, they do something for your spirit that words cannot explain. When you are around people that genuinely care about your well-being, it does something. It makes you happy. So even in the midst of whatever rejection we must experience, it's really about us finding our happy place right now. It's about finding the things that I can do in this moment, that I can take my power back and I can get my life back on track. I remember being in one of the darkest places of my life, and I was so embarrassed and I was so ashamed. I didn't want to tell anybody about what I was experiencing, because they would have been like, not her, no. I was feeling so low about it. But then I was like, it's got to be somebody that I can talk to. And I remember picking up the phone, and I called one of my friends, and I was telling her about it, and all she did was listen. Sometimes, guys, all we need is somebody to listen to the broken fragments. Sometimes we just need somebody just to hear us out, and don't even worry about what they may say on the other side. Just get it out so that we can move on. Sometimes we may have to go through counseling. Sometimes we may have to seek professional help. Whatever it is going to take for us to get over this obstacle, that's what we must do. In order for us to live our best life, guys, let's focus on being healed. Let's not focus on the rejection. Let's not focus on those that have cast us to the side, those that have called us names, those that feel that our life will never be anything without them. They do not hold the power over our lives. We do. And as we hold the power over our lives, guys, let's make the best of our lives. We're in the second half, and I don't know about you, but it is about to go down. And I'm not even worried about the people that said what they said, or even those that are doing what they're doing. When we become so occupied and focused on becoming better, all of that negativity, believe it or not, it just starts to dissipate. And not only does it dissipate, you can start being around people that you know rejected you as a child. You could go around people that talked about you or currently talked about you, and you can still look at them and be like, God bless you. And that's what we have to be. A person's acceptance, yes or no, does not make us. It does not break us. Whether they say, they don't have the power over our life, and we don't have to kiss nobody's butt for acceptance. You don't have to do what somebody wants you to do for them to like you. You are liked, you are loved, you are valued, you are powerful, you are great all by yourself. We do not have to do anything unethical, compromise who we are, any principles for to get in any clicks, any plans, none of that. God, like I said, He chose us as individuals. We stand in being chosen. And if you're around somebody right now that you love and you like, I don't know, been there too. You know what, God, I'm putting them in your hand. But right now, I'm going to focus on getting my life together. I'm going to focus on becoming the best person I can be. Whatever we give the energy to, that is what we become. So if we continue to focus on the rejection, if we focus on the hurt, if we focus on the anger, I don't know why they did me like this. If we focus on that, we will never be able to walk in our full potential. So again, guys, I thank you for tuning in to Mental Health Monday as we talked about rejection. Not only as we talked about rejection, but we also talked about how to really get through the rejection in the 3 phases of acknowledge, accept, and aspire. I pray that Mental Health Monday has been a blessing, and if it has, definitely share and invite your friends. This is something that we'll do every Monday, and if it's something that you want us to openly discuss on this show on Mental Health Monday, definitely bring it forth. Again, I really appreciate you guys. If you haven't done so, check out Real Talk with Terlisa TV show. It comes on Tuesday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. live on TLE Network, and you can live stream that on tletv.fun. So again, guys, I will see you later. And look, I'm going to pump up the TV show Tuesday and Thursday, but Friday night, we have Grown Folks Conversation. We have another happy hour. You're welcome, Miss Tammy. We have another happy hour. It's going to be from 6 to 7 o'clock. One of my brother Tony's is going to be on here with me. And when I tell you it's Grown Folks Conversation, it will be exactly that. So I love you guys. I will talk to you later. And don't ever, just keep this in mind if nothing else. You got this. And what another person feel about you, what another person say about you is on them. God has chosen you. He has validated you, and he's going to work everything out for your good. And even though you may seem like you in a season by yourself, you may seem like you misunderstood, you may seem like don't nobody care, everything around you is going crazy, maybe you lost everything, whatever you are, and you like things cannot get worse, guess what? They are about to get better. Do not focus on the negativity. Don't focus on that mess. I'm telling you, it's draining. It's draining you. It's draining you. We become so involved in things that we're not supposed to. And I had to teach myself this, and I'm going to go. When I find that my energy level is being reduced, it's because I'm focusing on something that I have no business. When I find that my head is starting hurting and I'm feeling like I'm stressed out or I'm worried about something, it's because I'm giving my time and my attention to something that has no power over me. If the enemy had power over you, your situation would already be over. If the enemy had power over whatever you're dealing with right now at this moment, it would be over with because he would already have it. So what he does, he comes in and he confuses us. He reminds us of what people have said to us. He has people around us to distract us from whatever it is we want to do. Do not pay attention to it. And I know it's the hardest thing to do, especially if you are living in it, if you are dealing with it, if you got to be around it every day. It can be downright bittersweet. But let me tell you something. If you didn't have victory in this thing, you would not be going through what you're going through. Whenever there's a fight and if the opposition know he's going to win, he's going to go ahead and take you on out. The problem is he can't take you all out because it's something that's in you that is surviving. It is something that's in you that is standing and you walk in victory. Let that victory continue to lead you. And when them thoughts come to your mind, cast them down. When confusion comes to your mind, when what they said to you come to your mind, when the thoughts start coming in like a racing flood, something else can I give you? My biggest battle used to be right before I go to sleep, guys. That is when I would just go through like everything, my day, everything would just hit me at night. And I would only get 2 to 3 hours of sleep at one point. I had to start calming my mind down. At night, I would get in my word. I started listening to nature sounds. I started doing things that calmed my spirit and that was soothing so that I could go to sleep. A lot of times we already have the victory, but because we're being so worn out in our day-to-day and because our mind is going through so many things, we can't function. And if we're defeated in our mind and we're defeated in our spirit, then that's when the depression sets in. That's when the stress sets in and the anxiety and the worry sets in. You have the power to do it. Just do it. And I say that like Nike, say just do it. And control. If you can't control it, pray about it. You can't control people. People are going to do and say what they want to do. You can't control them, but you can control your reaction. You don't have to accept it, even if they giving it. You don't have to embrace it, even if they're trying to spoon feed it to you. All you have to do is just stand and stay the course. And sometimes staying the course is the hardest thing to do when everything around you, it's just like an automobile accident and you coming down the street, and then before you get to the street, you see all of these cars crashing, but you know you can't back up because it's a car behind you. So you just got to go through these crashes. And that's what a lot of us are at right now in our life. We are in a season where everything is crashing. Everything is hitting. And you trying to figure out, how do I maneuver through this? We're trying to figure out, I just overcame one difficulty. I just went through a season of embarrassment. I just went through a season of being ashamed. I just lost my job. My marriage is on the rocks. My kids are acting crazy. My finances are funny. I got a doctor's diagnosis and it wasn't good. Am I going to ever catch a break? The answer is yes. Stay the course and stay focused. And when I say stay the course and stay focused, the hardest thing to do is to look forward when you are in the middle of something that wants you to look back. Some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my life is the fact that I did not keep my eye on my prize. I kept looking back. And every time I would look back, I kept getting pulled further and further back to where it was I was supposed to not be. If the enemy can pull you back, and I say this all the time, if he can confuse you, he can use you. Some of us, our biggest battle is not with others, it's with ourselves, because we keep thinking that if I can make this better, no, it's not even about us making or doing anything. It's about us just understanding, realizing sometimes it is what it is. And when we embrace it for it is what it is and say, I'm going to be okay. When I tell you the pain may be temporary, but the healing is going to be permanent and you're going to come out on the other side, it's going to be exactly that. Stop expecting things to be the way we want them. Stop expecting things to be A, B, C, and D. Let's stop limiting God for his miracles the way that he came last time or how he blessed us last time. Right now, we are in a season of things coming into us from unexpected places. I mean, people, your name will be in people's mouth that you never met before. We are in a season of miracle signs and wonders if you receive it. August is the month of miracles. Believe me, I don't care where you are in your life. I don't care what you are experiencing. This is the month of miracles. This is the month of yes. This is the month of the turnaround. This is the month where God is not going to even allow your enemies to triumph over you. He is not going to even allow those that are coming against you. He going to be like, you know what? I have the last laugh. We don't have to fight a fight if God has already fought for us. We don't have to do anything but stand back and decree his word, and that's it. He talks about us putting on the full armor of God. That's all you got to do. I've been in Ephesians 6 talking about the full armor of God every day. Now, one place that it tells you to fight, only thing he tells you about is fight what? He ain't saying fight people. The word even say that you wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers. So right now, where you thinking that your battle is with a person, is with the spirit. So what the person will do is they want you to act a fool in the natural, because if you act a fool in the natural, then you're not going to have victory in the spirit. So don't even come against it, whatever you're going through in the natural, because you already got it defeated in the spirit. But if you act a fool in the natural, you have no power in the spirit. So do not be moved by what you see, because it's temporary and subject to change. And no matter what you're dealing with, you stand on the word. Therefore now stand. And as you stand, you're going to start seeing things move, and it's going to be an accelerated pace. This is not the time to retreat or the time to give up. This is the time to stand and believe God in his word and watch him work. I guarantee you, if you hang on, he going to do exactly what he say right in the midst of it. And whoever it is, let it go. Let it go and let them go. Sometimes our biggest problem is we holding on to people, places, and things, and they season is over with in our life. If you're holding on to something and you don't know which way to go, now is the time to let it go. And when I say that, release it. Release it. And when you release it, God is going to increase you. Sometimes the blessings that are supposed to come to us are not coming because we got the wrong people around us. We in the wrong place. We in the wrong environment, and we doing the wrong things. You've been called. You've been chosen. You know what you need to do. But your blessings are not flowing because of the people that are around you, and they are leeches right now, the natural, and you know that they leeches. God is not going to bring your increase around others so they can take from you and squander it. He is not going to do it. So right now, if God is giving you whatever the instruction is, and it sounds crazy, it don't make sense, then that's what we have to do. This is a season of obedience. Obedience is better than sacrifice, but obedience also reaps blessings. So again, guys, That is it. I'm done with Mental Health Monday. You have a great night, and we will talk again. Again, guys, check out the show Tuesday and Thursday and Friday. I will be on live with Happy Hour, and I may be back on Wednesday too. So I love you guys. You have a good night. Thank you.